Okay, let's start the meeting. Good afternoon, everybody.
No, we're not. We're just starting the live stream 5 minutes earlier, but the meeting time is still 5 minutes away.
Okay.
But I just wanted to let you guys know that we're now live on the internet.
All right. Am I going to get the screen with all the commissioners, or am I going to get a live stream screen?
You should not be looking at the live stream. That's just for viewers, public, because will be in the meeting. Otherwise, it interferes with the Zoom's audio.
Okay.
And live stream is always 30 seconds delayed.
Okay.
CCL. Oh, I see.
Kamal, we have another phone call. If you could help me with that.
Sure. Can you please state your name, whoever is calling from the phone ending in 375? We do not recognize
Sure.
it.
Sure. The Mary Lou Seidel with Preservation in Chicago.
Thank you.
And I sent an email to Campbell, and I don't know if she's on the line yet, but Lisa DiChiara from Landmarks, Illinois had a family emergency, and she's asked either Ward or I to make a statement on her behalf regarding 1336 West Cullerton.
Will you make a statement?
I will, or Ward. I can do it. That's fine.
We just need to know for the chair.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll go ahead and make it. It's very short.
Okay.
Commissioner Leon, so in your notes, if you could call on Mary Lou Seidel.
Yeah, I know.
Under
there.
agenda item 3, or I mean at the beginning.
Yes.
Thank you.
Deanna, when you're done or ready, can you please let the chairperson know so he can start the meeting?
I'm ready.
The one thing is just the Mary Lou, I have her in 2 places, so I'm not sure. She's calling from 2 locations.
Can we start the meeting? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Commission on Chicago Landmarks meeting. This is a virtual meeting. In a brief moment, I'll explain the rules and procedures for this meeting. I hope everybody is doing well and healthy and safe. Let me start with a roll call of the commissioners. Commissioner Osman.
Here.
Commissioner Wong.
Here.
Commissioner Cox.
Here.
Commissioner Burns.
Here.
Commissioner Aguirre.
Here.
Commissioner Tolliver.
Here.
Commissioner Yekovich.
Here.
And Chairman Leon. We have a quorum. Did I miss anybody? I don't think so. Okay. A couple of announcements here on how we're going to proceed. Pursuant to an ordinance adopted by the Chicago City Council on April 24, 2020, in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency, I, as chairman of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks, issued emergency rules governing the conduct of remote public commission meetings and provisions for remote public participation, which were posted on the Commission's website. In line with these emergency rules, today's regular meetings of the Commission on Chicago Landmarks and its Permit Review Committee are virtual meetings being simulcast to the general public via live stream. The Permit Review Committee meeting will follow directly after this meeting at approximately 1:45 p.m. This is the first time Commission meetings have been held virtually, and as a result, there are limits to our technical capabilities. With this in mind, members of the general public were encouraged to submit written statements in advance of the meeting, and these have been posted on the Commission's website. Those members of the public desiring to speak at today's meeting were required to register before the meeting. Verbal statements by the public for all agenda items will take place at the beginning of the meeting to minimize the chance for technical issues. Applicants and their representatives, as well as aldermen, were required to contact staff if they desire to speak, and they will be able to do so after the staff presentation on a specific project. At this time, all those who were provided instructions regarding how to speak at today's virtual meeting should follow them and be ready to speak. I will call upon you at the appropriate time. First, we would like to take public comments for items 2 and 3 on today's agenda. I will call out the agenda item and the names of the persons who have requested to speak. Members of the public will be limited to 3 minutes each, and please do know that there may be a delay when you are allowed to speak of about 30 seconds. So let me start with the public testimony. Regarding agenda number 2, the final certification of a Class L property tax exempt for 911-915 West Randall Street, only one person has registered to speak, Mary Lou Seidel. Mary Lou, can we hear from you, please? Can we authorize Mary Lou to speak, please?
She is authorized. Mary Lou can speak.
Mary Lou, can you hear us?
I am unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, great. Phew. Thank you very much to the chairman and the commissioners. Preservation Chicago concurs with the recommendation that the Class L tax incentive will be approved for the substantial rehabilitation completed at 911 to 915 West Randolph Street. The restoration and preservation sensitive third floor addition to this building indeed meet the standards of the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and blends nicely with the Fulton Market Landmark District. With the booming development market in this area underway, it is commendable to see such quality work done to respect the Landmark District and the historic integrity of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Don't go. You are the only person who signed up for item number 2. Item number 3, the preliminary decision on a permit application for demolition of 1336 West Cullerton Street. Two people have registered to speak. One of them was Lisa DiChiera of Landmarks, Illinois. Unfortunately, she cannot make the statement, but she has designated Mary Lou to make the statement on her behalf. Mary Lou?
Yes, thank you. So Lisa writes that I support the staff recommendation. I agree with the denial of demolition for 1336 West Cullerton. The building is a rare workman cottage because of its pediment-topped false front, an original design feature intended for the building to appear taller than was constructed. And that is it. Lisa DiChiera, Director of Advocacy, Landmarks, Illinois.
Thank you. Ward Miller, you have also signed up to speak on this agenda. Can we hear from you, please?
Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioner, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Cox, and members of the Landmarks Commission on Chicago Landmarks. We at Preservation Chicago very much support the staff recommendation for 1336 West Cullerton in the proposed Pilsen Historic Landmark District. We recognize that this is a contributing structure to the proposed designation. We're of the opinion that this is an important feature and critical feature of the historic district. Structures such as this, a 2.5-story frame building and of this type, style, shape, and proportion, a low to the ground and abutting the sidewalk, were once very popular in Chicago, especially in the years following the Chicago fire. However, these types of buildings are now less prominent and have been frequently demolished and replaced with other buildings. So we encourage the preservation of this structure. We encourage it be included in the preliminary landmark district, which it is, and the permanent district. And we feel that this really reflects, along with the other structures in Pilsen, it tells a larger story and reflects an amazing built environment. Also, we wanted to mention that there was a similar building in Chicago's Wicker Park District and Westtown community that's within the Milwaukee Avenue Landmark District, also of a similar nature, similar design at a very prominent corner. And that was a point of discussion when that district was nominated as a landmark district, and that building has since been beautifully restored and is a fabulous building within a really wonderful district along Milwaukee Avenue in Westtown. So we want to encourage the preservation of this building, and we support the staff and the department's recommendations to deny this demolition.
Thank you, Ward. That is all the speakers who signed up to speak for the commission meeting. We also received written statements from Preservation Chicago, which have been posted on the commission's website for public view. Now we'll go through the agenda. The first item on the agenda, as always, is the approval of the minutes of the previous meetings for the meeting of March 22nd. Do I have a motion to approve them? Please raise your hand, whoever moves it.
I move it.
Okay.
Your husband?
Yeah, do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tolliver, and I now have to do a roll call. Commissioner, let's see, let me go through the list here. Commissioner Burns. Commissioner Burns,
Yes, approved.
Commissioner Wong. Commissioner Wong, you need to unmute yourself. Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguirre,
Aye.
Commissioner Yekovich.
Aye.
And I vote yes. I think that I called everybody's names. Okay, so the minutes are approved. Let's move to the second item on the agenda, which is the Class L property tax incentive. This is the final certification for the Fulton Randall Market District for the property located at 911-915 West Randall Street on the 27th Ward. And let me call on Joyce Ramos from the Department of Planning and Development to make the presentation. Joyce?
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners. 911 Property Associates LLC is requesting certification of a Class L property tax incentive with respect to the property located at 911 to 915 West Randolph Street, which is located in the Fulton Randolph Market District, which was designated in 2015. The development primarily serves as retail and office space with approximately 3,600 square feet of ground floor retail space. In April 2018, the City Council adopted a Class L ordinance for this project. Certification of the scope of work and budget for a Class L project is the final step by the Commission on Chicago Landmarks to administer this incentive. This certification would then be used by the building owner to complete their application for the Class L assessment with the Cook County Assessor. The two-story building was built in 1908 and designed by architect Henry L. Ottenheimer for use as a commission house for the Avondale Butter and Egg Company. The exterior work included removal of the non-historic masonry infill on the first floor and installation of new compatible storefronts. The historic masonry was repaired as needed, cleaned, and tuck pointed. As approved by the Permit Review Committee, the project also included the installation of a new metal canopy and a one-story rooftop addition and deck. On the second floor, the deteriorated steel lintel was replaced. The brick piers and parapet were rebuilt to address structural and masonry condition issues discovered during construction. The original limestone header was able to be salvaged and reinstalled. The original brick detailing, like the corbelling under the coping, was replicated. The non-historic glass block units at the second floor window openings were removed and replaced with new double hung windows. The interior scope of work included removal of non-bearing walls and finishes, the structural repairs as needed, and installation of a new stair and elevator. New mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and life safety systems were installed. The initial budget for Class L eligible expenses was $1,768,274. The developer has spent $2,982,304 for Class L eligible scope of work, which is $1,214,030 more than initially estimated. In total, the owner invested $2,559,661 in the project. In addition to reviewing and approving the building permits for this work, historic preservation staff conducted site visits to monitor progress and approve samples as required. It is estimated that 15 to 19 permanent jobs were created as a result of this development project. The project also generated approximately 60 temporary jobs during the construction phase. Staff recommends that the commission certify completion of the Class L project. A draft recommendation is attached in your packet. Representatives of the owners are here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Before we call on the property owner, commissioners, Commissioner Wong, raise your hand. Would you like to make a comment or question, Commissioner Wong?
Yes, I had a question regarding the second floor of that building. Is that now office space or is that part of the retail? And is it occupied?
I'm going to defer that to the
applicant.
The applicant.
The owner will be testifying shortly.
Okay.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay. There be none. Let's hear from the applicant, Ms. Mariah DeGrino. Is an attorney representing the applicant. Would you like to speak, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Mariah DeGrino. I'm with the law firm of DLA Piper. I'm joined by my colleague, Liz Butler. I'm also joined by Isaac Shalom here on behalf of the applicant, 911 Property Associates, as well as George Sorich from Noor Architecture, the project architect. To answer your question, Commissioner Wong, the second floor is intended for office use, and I believe there is a user in the works, but I would pass the mic to either Mr. Shalom or Mr. Sorich to respond to the specific status of that user.
Have they been moved to, can we authorize them to speak? one of the things is that we cannot go back and forth unless they're promoted from attendees to panelists to speak. So I don't think that they have been promoted to that position to be able to speak. So you don't know the answer whether to answer the question from Commissioner Wong at this point, right?
It is office use is the intended use for the second floor. There is a user in the works. I don't know the precise status, but if we can, I can conclude my remarks, which are very brief, and just thanking the commission and commission staff for all of the help throughout this project. And if there are specific questions, I should probably be demoted as a panelist, and Isaac Shalom be promoted to panelist to answer Commissioner Wong's question. And if there are design questions or construction questions, then Mr. Sorich should be promoted as the panelist.
Technical assistant here, can we do that?
Yes, Mr. Isaac and Mr. Sorich both are under the panelist. They can unmute themselves and speak.
Okay, if you could please unmute yourself and you can speak now.
Yes, for me, it just came up that I have the ability to speak. I'm not sure if you could see me as well.
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you identify yourself?
Sure. This is George Sorich. I'm the project architect with NOR Architects. And I think just to reiterate, the second floor is intended for office use. There is a lease that is currently being negotiated for both the second and third floor. As you can see by the photos, we have an existing tenant on the ground floor, restaurant tenant, and there currently is a lease being negotiated for the remainder 1/3 of that ground floor space.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any other questions for the applicant or the staff? I do have a question for the applicant. What is the retail use? Do you have a retail company there now?
The tenant is called Veggie Grill. It's
Okay.
a restaurant tenant that has been operating for a few months now.
Okay, good. Do you know how many permanent jobs have been created or how many will be created?
I believe the number associated with that, the jobs would be associated with the tenants themselves. So it would depend on the specific user, but it's an estimate of around 15 to 20.
Okay. And I'm assuming that because of the circumstances, the restaurant is closed right now, but.
They are apparently offering takeout and delivery, but yes, not dine-in.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any other questions? There be none, I would request a motion that the commission certifies that the project has been substantially completed in accordance with the approved ordinance and meets the eligibility requirements for the Class L incentive for the former 911-915 West Randolph Street. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Yekovich. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner, I heard 2 seconds.
Burns.
Hughes.
Burns, okay. Then I need to do a roll call for everybody. Commissioner Cox,
Yes.
Commissioner Wong,
Aye.
Commissioner Hughes,
Aye.
Commissioner Osmond,
Aye.
Commissioner Aguirre, Commissioner Aguirre. Okay. We didn't hear you, Commissioner Aguirre.
Sorry, aye.
Commissioner Tolliver.
Yes.
All right. Anyone opposed or abstaining from this transaction? There be none, then the motion carries unanimously. Let's move on to the item number 3, which is the preliminary decision on permit application for demolition pursuant to section 2-120-740 through sections 2-120-825 of the Municipal Code in the Pilsen District for the property located at 1336 West Cullerton Street in the 25th Ward, and Emily Barton will make the presentation on behalf of the department. Emily?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So the building at 1336 West Cullerton Street is a two-story frame residential building in the proposed Pilsen district. On May 16th, 2019, the commission unanimously voted to adopt a final landmark recommendation to City Council. And the commission's recommendation was introduced to City Council on June 20th, 2019. On March 3rd of this year, historic preservation staff received an application for demolition. No application for new construction has been received yet. So the commission's review for a preliminary decision is limited to 1, whether the subject building is contributing building to the district, and 2, whether the proposed work would be an adverse effect on the significant historical and architectural features. In the district designation report, the building at 1336 Cullerton was preliminarily identified as contributing. The categorization of whether a property is contributing, non-contributing, or potentially contributing to the Pilsen district represents a preliminary determination by historic preservation staff and is non-binding to the commission. It's solely provided as guidance for property owners. So this is, as a reminder, the current map of the proposed district, and you can see 1330 West Cullerton indicated in blue south of the 18th Street corridor. So these are the 6 criteria for determining whether or not a building is contributing to a landmark district, and I'll go through them one by one. The subject, number 1, the subject property exhibits the significant historical or architectural features described in the designation ordinance. So the commission found that the Pilsen district meets 4 criteria for landmark designation, including illustrating the city's social and cultural history as a port of entry for immigrants. The commission found that Pilsen meets criteria for the district contributes to the city's social and cultural history, as it has historically been a port of entry for immigrants from Central Europe in the late 19th century and Mexico in the mid 20th century. The district's distinctive architecture, which includes a wide variety of structures built between 1870 and 1969, and that all of the buildings in the district work together to narrate this period of the city's history. So the significant features that are identified in our final recommendation are all exterior elevations, including roof lines of the buildings visible from public rights of way. This recommendation also includes murals on exterior facades of buildings visible from the public rights of way. So as I said, the period of significance for this district is 1870 to 1969. Pilsen's early population was predominantly Bohemian. However, immigrants from many other European ethnicities settled here as well. Very modest cottages were affordable to build and often provided a home for extended families. Many of these cottages, including the subject building, were constructed in the early days of the neighborhood between the 1870s and 1880s. The subject property and the proposed local district are also located within the larger Pilsen Historic District, which was listed to the National Register in 2006. That register nomination lists 1336 West Cullerton as contributing also. So many of the workers' cottages within the district are masonry, but as you can see from these photos, frame cottages are not uncommon. Although no original permit could be located for the building, it was likely constructed between 1886 and 1914. Other similar frame cottages date from this period at 1321 West 18th Place and 1019 West 18th Street, photos of which were included in your packet. Robinson's Atlas from 1886 does not show a building at this lot in this location. However, by the 1914 Sanborn map, it was constructed. A field guide to American houses states that false front houses, like the subject property, began to appear in America in the 1880s, indicating that this building was likely built earlier in the 1886 to 1914 time period. So number 2, the subject property exhibits the general historic and architectural characteristics associated with the district. So workers' cottages are one of the best examples of the modest architecture that was constructed by immigrants and working class families. And they do a lot to represent the history of the district. So the subject building, it's a frame workers' cottage with a false frame front. The roofline has been simplified with non-historic siding, but shows a decorative parapet with a semicircular arch in the middle. Behind the front flat roofline is a traditional workers' cottage gable roof. The overall form, roof shape, and entrance location are all consistent with the historic and architectural characteristics of other buildings commonly found in the district. While the first floor windows have been changed from the historic configuration, the second floor window sizes and shapes are also compatible with those found in other historic buildings in the neighborhood. So number 3, the subject property respects the general site characteristics associated with the district. The majority of lots in the preliminary district are between 24 feet and 25 feet wide and 125 feet long. While most buildings in the district have lots located at the current street grade, about 20% of the properties in the proposed district, including this one, are located on lots that are lower, matching the historic street level. The subject property is located on a 24-foot by 124-foot lot. Like many other residential properties in the district, the building is located at the front of the lot with only a slight front setback. This setback is consistent with the building's footprints on Sanborn maps, indicating that the overall size and location have not changed since initial construction. The building observes minimal side setbacks on both sides, with a slightly larger setback to the east, and is consistent with the context of Cullerton Street, matching the general siting of 10 of the 13 other buildings located on this block alone. Number 4, the subject property exhibits the general size, shape, and scale associated with the district. Workers' cottages are very common throughout the district. The subject cottage is 2 stories tall with an attic, hidden, of course, behind that false frame front. Out of the 13 other buildings on the block, 6 of them are of similar scale. As we had mentioned before, false fronts, as the one found on 1336 Cullerton, are relatively rare throughout the city, as most of them have been demolished over the years. While many of the buildings in Pilsen have false mansards, such as, this is just a few doors down on Cullerton, true false fronts are unique and began to appear in America in the 1880s. And that is well within the proposed district significant period of significance, which is 1870 again to 1969. Okay, number 5, the materials of the subject property are compatible with the district in general character, color, and texture. So there are, as I said, there are a large number of frame cottages throughout the district. Original siding is difficult to find, as almost all of it has been replaced or covered over with newer non-wood siding. 1336 West Cullerton is no exception and matches the character of other frame structures, such as 1336 West 19th Street and 2010 West 18th Street. The subject property is clad on all sides with either vinyl or aluminum siding. And then finally, number 6, if the subject property has been altered in a manner which is contrary to these criteria, such changes could be easily reversed or removed. So throughout Pilsen's history, building owners often altered existing structures to either provide more space or accommodate new uses. By the mid-1910s, the community was built up and these kinds of projects were much more commonplace than new construction. Changes to buildings, often without permits, were commonplace throughout the 20th century. From the exterior, the building appears to be in stable shape. The windows and doors have been replaced sometime in the past, and the location and size of windows on the first floor are likely not original. Original siding may still be on the building underneath the current siding, as is often the case. Removing the non-historic siding could potentially reveal the historic window sizes and locations. The applicant has submitted an architect's letter regarding the condition of the building, and that was included in your packet. The architect found cracked retaining walls, sagging floors, and inadequate shoring within the basement. So staff recommends that the commission find that pursuant to Article 3, Section G1 of the Rules and Regulations of the Commission, the significant historical or architectural features of the proposed district are identified as all exterior elevations, including roof lines, of buildings visible from the public rights of way. Also, preliminarily find that the subject building, which is a 2-story frame workers cottage, built between 1886 and 1914 based on historic maps, contributes to the character of the proposed district, which includes a wide variety of structures built between 1870 and 1969. Preliminarily find that the demolition of a contributing building or structure is per se an adverse effect on the significant historical and architectural features pursuant to Article 3, Section G3B of the Rules and Regulations. And pursuant to Section 2-120-780 of the Landmarks Ordinance, preliminarily find that the demolition of the subject property will adversely affect and destroy significant historical and architectural features of the property and the district. Finally, the staff recommends that the commission issue a preliminary decision disapproving the demolition application. As some of you might remember from previous meetings, a preliminary decision disapproving this demolition application would trigger an expedited consideration of the permit. The commission must schedule and conduct a public hearing on this application for demolition and notify the city council of its recommendation within 90 days of the date the application for permit is received by the commission. So the alderman is aware of this project. No written comments were received, but the owner, Martha Frary, is here.
Thank you, Emily. Before I call on the owner, let me call on Michael Gaynor from the Department of Law, who would like to make a technical announcement. Michael?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. We just wanted to alert folks who are watching this meeting via live stream that perhaps earlier in the meeting, there appeared in that platform, Vimeo, I believe it is, a chat function, a sidebar. We just wanted to alert viewers that there, if you did try to use that chat function, that is not something that the members of the commission can see or something in which they can, with which they can interact. I do believe it's actually already been disabled, but I just wanted to clarify that for anyone who was watching earlier and may have tried to use the chat function, that was not intentional, and I believe it's been disabled, and we apologize for any confusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Let me call on the applicant, Martha Frary, to speak. If we can promote.
Okay. Hello, my name is Martha. Thank you for having me. I'm very concerned about my property. I am very happy to hear that it's within a historical site. However, the reason I'm selling my house is because I'm very concerned of the safety of the house. Even when walking on the second floor, it seems like it vibrates. I know the tenants used to tell me, because the people living on the second floor have moved out. I told them that they could stay, but they moved out. But even they would tell me every month, I feel unsafe. Even when there's wind, the house moves. So that's my biggest concern, is the safety of the building. And I hope that you can consider the approval of the demolition, because otherwise I do not have the money to do the necessary work. Again, safety of others.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. What I want to clarify is that this is a preliminary denial of the demolition. And if I could ask either Emily or Diana to emphasize again what the process is going to be. Again, this is a preliminary denial, but for your information as well as everybody else's, if you, Diana or Emily, could you clarify what the next step is, please?
Yes, Commissioner, Diana here. Just to clarify, as Emily stated, this is just a preliminary decision, and this is something that is a first step in this process. There are additional steps that involve a public hearing where full record, including any issues that the owner would like to present to the commission, could be brought forward. And that full record is then submitted to the full commission again for review as part of a transcript and complete record for them to consider a final decision. So this is just the first step in this process.
Okay.
And under the current circumstances, Deanna or Michael, how long do we have to hold this public hearing?
So in the standard process, based on the landmarks ordinance, the 90 days that Emily mentioned would be from the date that the commission received this application to the date that they would make a final decision and note that and provide that decision to the city council. This is in place because the district, the proposed Pilsen Historic District, has not yet been designated. But due to the emergency ordinance that was passed by city council, there are other provisions in that ordinance that allow tolling of that timeline until either June 30th, when that ordinance is repealed, or sooner if there is a decision that by the Department of Health that the emergency is over and the ordinance is repealed. So the timeline has been somewhat extended due to that emergency.
So just for a point of clarification, although we may approve this today, the 90 days starts the day that the ordinance is repealed by city council, the emergency ordinance, or if it's soon, that will be June 30th or sooner if that happens sooner. That's when the 90 days starts, right?
The 90 days started when the application for the permit was filed.
March 3rd.
Pardon?
March 3rd.
Okay, so March 3rd. But then on March 18th, when the emergency ordinance became effective, it was passed in late April, but it was at an effective date of March 18th. So on March 18th, that 90-day clock stopped ticking.
Okay.
And it will continue. It will not tick again until the repeal of the emergency ordinance or the determination by the health department that the emergency is over.
Okay. So it has already ran like 10 days or 12 days, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, a few days. Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions regarding this item? Let's see, did anybody raise your hand? Nobody? Okay. At this time, I would like to request a motion to accept the staff recommendation. Yes.
There are a couple people with their hands raised.
It does. Oh, yeah. Commissioner Aguirre.
Thank you. I have a question for the owner of the property. Is this currently just hearing all your the description of the safety concerns? Is this property currently inhabited? Are people living there right now?
No, I have people living in the first floor. But they're aware that they're aware of the safety issues, and the reason they're there is because their house is being built.
Just a follow-up question on that. So the property is currently split into 2 units. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes. Yes, there's a first floor and a second floor apartment.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Cox.
Yes, thank you. This is a question for the applicant. So this is now an investment property, or was this a property that you once lived in but you no longer live in? Can you tell us a little bit about the history?
Yes, I bought this house back in maybe 1998. I lived there for 5 years, but then once I got married, I moved out. But the family have been living there even since before I bought the house.
Okay, and thank you for that. And are you aware that the housing department is currently considering a program for a grant program for rehabbing of historic structures in the Pilsen community, so that additional resources are made available for owners like yourself to do the upgrades and maintenance without undue burden, financial burden on you.
I did not know that.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I would have not done this contract with the prospective buyer if I had known, because that was my concern. I have those safety issues, but no money.
Right. I think that obviously the historic landmarks staff we're going to have to find ways to communicate the resources that have been marshaled. And this is recent in response to things that have been, we've watched an increase in demolition requests. And a lot of times it's because people can't do the necessary upkeep and maintenance. And so I know currently this fund is being launched, and it's tied to a larger conversation about how do we continue to keep the character of the neighborhood and allow people who own these to do the necessary upgrades and not force them to have to sell their properties. So just wanted to let you know that that is available independent of how this particular item is voted on by the committee.
I wish I had known about it, because the reason I made this decision also is that the city found lead supposedly on the second floor, which I took care of. I paid like $10,000 just to deal with the lead. But after that, I said, enough. It's $10,000 now, and then it's going to be $100,000 if something were to happen to the house, because it's a lot. So, but if I had known, I would have not done that contract, which is in draft still, but it's written. So that's the only thing that worries me, that I don't know what to. I wish I could have kept the house. I don't know what I could do. But I know that if I had known that there was money to have made the repairments, I wouldn't have made this decision.
I appreciate your perspective. Thanks so much.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes, are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
My apologies. We have an outage in my area at the moment, so I'm live streaming from my phone. But I guess I wanted to kind of turn to the staff again to provide clarity on, in the preliminary hearing, we are not allowed to base our decisions off of any financial considerations at this point. Is that correct?
Diana?
I can respond. So Commissioner, yes, the decision in front of the commission is whether the property qualifies as a contributing building. And if the criteria that Emily had described and evaluated are the rules and regulations adopted by the commission and part of the landmarks ordinance. And basically the primary decision at this point is whether this is a historic building. Separate from this, if there is an actual decision at the end of the day to deny the application entirely, there is a separate hearing process that is an economic hardship hearing process that the owner can consider if there is an actual economic hardship issue, that then it would be a separate procedure that would be undertaken and a separate review that the commission would do. The other thing I would like to add is if the building is deemed imminently dangerous and hazardous by the Department of Buildings, then that is a different consideration as well, because in the landmarks ordinance, should the property be deemed by the Department of Buildings commissioner or the fire department or health department as imminently dangerous and hazardous in writing, that decision then supersedes the review of the Landmarks Commission, and the approval automatically happens.
To the best of your knowledge, has the building department inspected the property?
At this point, we have no knowledge that there was a finding of imminently dangerous and hazardous.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deanna.
Commissioner Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a question for the owner, the applicant. Martha, you had indicated that you currently have a contract underway.
Yes.
How long did you actually list the property before, or was that a separate, just word of mouth, I guess?
No, I just spoke to somebody that had mentioned a person that had that had told me that he was interested. If I ever wanted to sell, that I could talk to him. Mhm.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
That was in December of 2019.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Before I call on the next commissioner, let me ask you, is a condition of the contract that the building be demolished?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tolliver.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
The question is to the owner, and it's actually a follow-up to what Deanna mentioned. Do you have a certified inspection now that says the building is inherently dangerous, or is your assessment based on ad hoc information you receive from tenants and your personal feelings?
It's tenants, my personal feeling and my observations, and also I submitted a letter from an architect, and that it says that it was his decision and his recommendation that the house be demolished because it was unsafe. This assessment was done by architect Laszlo Simovic.
Is this merely a narrative letter, or does he list specifically the issues that makes the building inherently unsafe?
He did make specific items. He names 4 of them.
This is, let me say on this, I think that you, as part of the public hearing that will take place, this is the kind of evidence that you will need to present to support your request for demolition. So make sure that when the public hearing takes place, you have somebody who can attest to the condition that the building should be demolished. So this is keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Tolliver, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Burns.
Thank you, Chairman. Recognizing that the purpose of this discussion and vote is not about the financial aspects of this project and the ramifications, my question is for the staff. In response to Commissioner Cox talked about opportunities for support based on this becoming a landmark district, how quickly and in what means can the staff get to the owner information so she can really understand her full range of options before she moves forward, whether it's the next hearing or just going back and looking at her contract and the property?
Diana, you answer that question? Or Emily, either one.
So, Commissioner, in response to your question, we can certainly provide information that is currently available regarding various assistance programs that may exist to the owner very quickly. And so there would be no problem with continuing that conversation. And we're not familiar with the contract of purchase, so we really can't comment on that.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say, I think it's important before she proceeds that she really understand her range of options, because it seems like she didn't coming into this meeting today.
Yeah, Commissioner Cox.
Yes, and thank you for that clarification. I think that would be very, very helpful so that the owner can have the full range of options available to her. And also, it would be great if moving forward, she is able to clarify with whether the demolition was a condition upon a condition upon which the buyer would buy the property. So in other words, if the buyer is looking to the owner to make sure that their property can be demolished as a condition upon which they are buying it, I think that's an important piece of information, because that means possibly that the purchaser is not purchasing it because of the historic character of the house, but because he wants to demolish it, and he wants you to secure the demolition before he purchases it. He could buy it from you and then go through this process himself, but he is asking that of you, and it's not clear whether that's a condition for the sale.
It's a very, very good point, Commissioner Cox. So to Ms. Freire, these are some of the issues that we're suggesting you address, be ready to address for the public hearing, to build up your case about the demolition. Make sure that you're clear on what all the facts are about the condition of the building by an independent architect or structural engineer. Clarify the issue of the contract, whether it's a condition of the contract. Commissioner Yekovich.
Yes. So do we have any idea of what the condition of, I guess probably not, what's underneath the siding? Because right now, I guess I'm having a hard time with this one. I understand and I see it's very clear that in scale and maybe in profile of the building, it's a contributing scale, but I'm having a hard time with the structure itself in terms of, yes, maybe there are 3 windows at the, on the second floor that kind of look like workers' cottage, but it's not to me a particularly remarkable contributing structure. And so that's just a kind of just my opinion at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily or Diana, would you like to address that?
Yes, of course. So as Commissioner stated, we see that there's non-historic siding on the exterior. And in many cases, what we've found in previous experiences is that usually it's applied directly over, original siding or old siding. We suspect that there could be wood siding underneath, but until there is some investigation, that's really impossible to tell. And in many cases, depending on the condition of the siding, it is a reversible condition to replace the siding with something that's appropriate. And scarring is always available in some form to describe what the arrangement of original windows might have been. In many, many cases that we deal with throughout the city, this is a very common change, and it has always been considered by the commission as a typical change that could be reversed easily and the property rehabilitated to be more in the form of what it looked like historically. And it could easily be done as part of a rehab project. So our basis on level of change and determining a non-contributing, it is typically required to be a lot higher than the siding and window changes.
Commissioner Hughes, you had your hand raised.
Yes, sir. I was just going to say that we have to keep the criteria and basically what Deanna is saying at the forefront of our decision. I know that this property, comparatively to others that have come before us, is not the most aesthetically pleasing as far as just the upkeep of the exterior and the original features. But like Commissioner Yekovich was saying, that it is the same scale and it does probably have features underneath that we could consider.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? I think that we have provided enough guidance here to the applicant to be ready for the public hearing. At the appropriate time, we'll schedule the public hearing, and she will be notified. Ms. Freire, you will be notified when the public hearing will take place, and then a decision will be made during that public hearing as a recommendation to the commission on whether to proceed with the demolition, to approve the demolition or not. But at this point, I don't have any other comments or questions from any other commissioners. So I'm going to request a motion to accept the staff recommendation of the permit application for demolition of 1336 West Cullerton Street. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
I hear a first and a second, but I'm going to call different names at this time. Commissioner Cox.
A yes is in support of the staff recommendation.
Yes, yeah, there is supporting the recommendation of the staff.
So yeah.
Commissioner Hughes.
I believe I was the second, but yes, I'm in support.
Commissioner Wong.
Yes.
Commissioner Burns.
Yes.
Commissioner Yekovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Aguirre.
Yes.
Commissioner Tolliver.
Yes.
Commissioner Osmond.
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Cox.
I just wanted to say that, again, it was very, very helpful to hear from the applicant and to understand the kind of individual challenges that she faces. And it just reminds me of how important the historic district as a tool is, because over the course of 12 years, from 2006 to 2018, over 90 properties in the Pilsen neighborhood were demolished. And each of them were individual property owners making an individual decision, but collectively, the district, proposed district, has lost 90 structures. And so we really have to understand that, you know, the character of these neighborhoods, the things that these owners love about it, is lost one building at a time. You know, it's like death by 1,000 little cuts. And so I feel that that individual story of why this owner is selling is a real testament to why we have to have a district in place, so that we have a deliberate conversation for each individual demolition request that comes before this body. So it is so much bigger than this one particular case, which, as I said, is compelling. I think her reasons heartfelt, but that it was also telling that the resources that we have available are not widely understood. And so I think as we think about this, whether you think about the historic district, we have to take into consideration, we have to find a way to give people choices other than demolish their properties. And so I hope we'll make progress in this, and I hope that we might accelerate the conversation about the historic district in light of what owners are going through. So just
very much appreciated, Commissioner. I think that everybody needs to understand the options that they have before they move to demolish a building. Thank you. Commissioner Aguirre.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that as well. I think, you know, we need to find not only ways in which these mechanisms of support are known and available to residents that are owners of properties with this value. If we're agreeing as a city that it's important to preserve them, but then how do we support the owners to see the resources that the city has available, and don't feel that preservation and conservation of these assets is a burden. So I pretty much agree with, I want to support and highlight the comment of Commissioner Cox as well. Like, we need to make a stronger effort to bring those resources and have those conversations at the community level.
Let me add to that the city has delegate agencies, and maybe this is something that the Department of Planning and Development could request the delegate agency to disseminate this information so everybody understands about the benefits and what is available to the residents of any given area, whether it's their landmarks or not. But it becomes important for people to understand what the resources are. Commissioner Hughes.
Yes, I was going to say pretty much exactly what Commissioner Aguirre was saying, but I just want to add that we want to get these homeowners excited about preservation and preserving their properties and contributing to the historic fabric of our city and our identity. You know, yes, we want them to have the resources, and yes, we want to provide them with aid, but at the end of the day, they have to stand behind the preservation of our city and contributing to its identity. So we need to find ways to get people excited and educated and on board with this plan and not feel like it's a burden or it's a challenge every time they come before us.
That's good. I'll make a comment in a minute. Let me give Commissioner Yakovich. Commissioner Yakovich.
Yes, just a clarification, and I was just wondering if anyone could help, if it's something that I could use some assistance with. How are the resources allocated for a demo for a renovation like that in a historic district? Is it percentage based or a case by case application?
Diana? Diana, can you address the question? But let me say also, so everybody understand, the district is not in place yet. So we have to wait until the district is in place in order to access landmark specific incentives. There are other incentives that the property owner could access through the Department of Housing, probably through the Department of Planning and Development. But in terms of the specific landmarks incentives, we'll have to wait until the district is in place. But I will defer to Diana if you could clarify the question for Commissioner Yakovich.
So Chairman Leon, you actually just stated that we need to provide further information with other incentives that may be available. It's not necessarily historic preservation, incentive like the Adopt a Landmark program at this point. But again, that is a further discussion once there is an actual designation in place.
Do you know if there is a TIF in this district, in this area?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do you know whether there is a TIF in this area?
There is a TIF, but it's only touching a very small portion of the area. So no, majority of this proposed district is not in a TIF.
Because there's the TIFNIP program also that could be accessed in some areas. Commissioner Cox.
No, I was going to also say there is a TIF. There's an 18th Street TIF, but it is only along the commercial properties. It does not extend into the purely residential areas, but there are a menu of programs targeted to homeowners, qualifying homeowners, which is part of that menu of options that we were talking about to the applicant. And so I think we can, the efforts that the Department of Housing were putting in place were independent of a historic district. This came out of a concern that they have been monitoring over the few years of getting grants and loans to homeowners. And so we should be able to share those resources to the applicant. We have talked about it in the context of the historic district and trying to address the range of options that people have. There's certain kinds of resources that you are implying, again, that are very specifically tied to the historic district status, like access to grants from the Adopt a Landmark Fund. But then there are other things that are purely for residential properties where you have a homeowner who wants to reinvest in that property. And so I think we obviously need to more widely promote these as a part of the conversation of why historic designation is an asset and a benefit to the property owners in the entire Pilsen area.
Thank you. Commissioner Wong. Commissioner Wong, you had a comment? Let me unmute. Commissioner Wong? You are muted. Hello? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but for some reason, Commissioner Wong is frozen.
Okay. All right. So, so to the applicant, as you can see from this discussion, there are some options that you should explore, and I'll strongly encourage you to work with Deanna and Emily to explore what those options are, and then they'll guide you through the process for the next step. Thank you. Let me move to the next item, which is the Permit Review Committee reports for the project reviews at the March 5th Permit Review Committee meeting, and the report on permit decisions by the Commission staff for the months of March and April. Is Commissioner Wong back with us?
Not yet.
Okay. Larry, can you report on the transactions reviewed by the staff?
Sure. So for the month of March, staff reviewed 205 permit applications. 3 of those related to projects reviewed by the Permit Review Committee. A total of 220 reviews were performed by staff, and the average number of days to issue an approval or corrections was 3.4 days. In that time, staff also reviewed 4 sign applications. Moving on to April, staff reviewed 167 permits. 8 of these relate to projects reviewed by the Permit Review Committee. A total of 194 reviews were performed by staff, and the average number of days to issue the approval or corrections was 3.5 days. Staff also reviewed 7 sign applications during that time.
Thank you. Do we have Commissioner Wong for the Permit Review Committee report? It seems that we lost Commissioner Wong momentarily.
I think he dropped out of the meeting, I think. So.
Okay. Could we, does the staff have the report, the projects review at the Permit Review Committee meeting?
Commissioner, I can report.
Yes, will you please?
Yes, thank you. So Permit Review Committee met on March 5th, 2020, and unanimously approved 1 project. That there was only 1 project on the agenda at that time. So this report is for your information and for the record, and you have received this information in your packets as well.
Thank you. That's it. That's all the items that we have on the agenda. The Permit Review Committee will start in about 10 minutes. Based on if there are no other questions or any other business, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. So moved.
Do I have a second, first and a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you. So before we start the Permit Review Committee meeting, for those commissioners who are going to participate on that, we're going to ask you to mute your microphone and put your camera, block your camera as well until we start the Permit Review Committee meeting. Thank you, everybody. This was the first meeting, and I think that we did pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rafael?
Yes, I'm here.
Is it possible for me to listen in? Obviously not as a
Oh, yeah.
participant.
Yes, absolutely.
And Do I have to change my status?
No, you don't need, well, I'm going to listen in because in case that Ernie has any problems, then I will step in and conduct the meeting. But yeah, but what I'm planning to do is to block my microphone and my camera just to listen. I will be just listening.
Right. So I'm gonna mute and I'm gonna block my camera. But I would
Don't
like
mute
to-
yet. Maurice, I have a question for you. This is for Raphael. The lot that the property we're just looking at is they got nothing behind it. So that property would qualify for an ADU, would it not?
I would think, yes, it would.
Yes.
Because I wanted to bring that up and I didn't get my hand up in time. Sorry, Raphael.
Yeah.
When would that legislation go through? Because that also should be part of what the staff communicate with this lady.
Yeah.
So apparently we can still be heard on live.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but I think your point is that there are a lot of options that most homeowners just have not been introduced to.
Right.
And we have to figure out a way to do it because it sounded like she would have exercised other options had she known that they were available to her.
Right.
Good. Okay, with that,
Great.
we will go off video and staff will let us know when we're back on, right?
Chairman Raphael.
Yeah.